students who have graduated this semester, so really proud of you all. I just want to provide you all with some updates. Real quick, this will be recorded. So the session will be recorded. If you are uncomfortable with that, please just make sure your camera is off. But we are recording this so that you are unable to attend can still access the workshop and the presentation. I'd like for all the students who are joining us, if you can please go to the chat box and include your Toro email. We will need to check you into this workshop. This is how we a presentation, the copy of a presentation, so that you have access to it later on if you need to reference it. So please take this time to go to the chat box, include your Toro email, so that way we can provide a copy of this session. My name is Elaf Altoma. I am one of the career coaches on campus, and we have Kathy Curran here who will be leading the workshop, but I just want to drop in and just make a few announcements to you all real quick. Again, this is a part of our alumni series. We have so many workshops planned for you all. I'm sharing the schedule right now, so definitely please make sure that you have the opportunity to RSVP on Handshake. If you are unable to attend, just by RSVPing on Handshake, you can get access to some information and the presentations and the videos from these sessions. So please make sure to RSVP even if you aren't able to attend. And I want to just make a quick announcement about the motivational talks that we have. The first one is from our alumna, Lisa Cullen. She's also the director of HR at Netflix. And we also have a motivational talk from Demario Davis. He's an NFL linebacker with the New Orleans Saints, but he's also a huge advocate for immigrants and for criminal justice reform. So we're excited to have him share a little bit more about their journey, but this is also gonna be a Q&A. So both these speakers really want an opportunity to talk to students at DH and really answer some questions that you all might have. So definitely RSVP for those. And just a quick announcement as far as the services you all have as alumni. For any graduating students, you all have access to make appointments with the Career Center to attend workshops for up to a year after you graduate. We are open during the summer. You can meet with a career coach. Just make sure you log into Handshake and you go to the Career Center tab, and that's where you can make an appointment. After that year after you graduate, you can pay, I believe it's $60 per 6 months, and then you can still access our services as far as appointments goes and workshops. We are planning a education job fair, a virtual education job expo next week. We're still in the process of uploading that onto Handshake, but please stay tuned if you are looking for jobs within teaching or counseling. There are employers who want to hire students, so stay tuned for that. And that's all for my announcements. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Kathy. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Elaf, and thank you everybody who's here today, and congratulations to everyone who is graduating. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you now, and also encourage you to ask any questions if you have them as I'm going through. But this workshop is on cover letters, and I hope that it'll give you some good feedback and understanding of how to create a cover letter for those, especially who have not written one before. So let's go ahead with each of our presentations. We have a set of learning outcomes, and today for this particular topic, I am going to hope that you'll recognize the foundational components of a competitive cover letter. Cover letters are an important part of the process of applying for a position. So we're going to walk through what makes a great cover letter, and then also how to construct them based on the position. Just as our resumes today are customized for each position that we're applying to, how can we develop, cover letter that addresses the position that we're applying to specifically, and then finally, articulate at least one example of a demonstrated success or accomplishment. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the readiness competencies that we'll also be including today. These are, for those of you who have not seen them, these are the National Association of College and Employers Career Readiness Competencies. And there are 8 of them that we always are incorporating into our workshops, because across any industries or fields, these we know are what employers are looking for outside of your degree. So today we're going to cover critical thinking and problem solving, which is defined as exercising sound reasoning to analyze issues, make decisions, and overcome problems. Additionally, we'll look at oral and written communications. How will you articulate your thoughts that you'll be including in your cover letters and be able to clearly share your ideas effectively in a written way, which will then be elaborated on when you get that interview. And then finally, career management, which is identifying and articulating one's skills, strengths, knowledge, and experiences relevant to career goals. And this piece is very relevant today in the sense that what we're seeing with COVID and how we're needing to adapt, it's really important that you begin to understand what makes you unique, what strengths and abilities you have that can be transferred when things change. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through. I also encourage you to ask questions if you have them as we're going through, but we'll start with resume versus cover letter. Sometimes individuals will ask, should I include a cover letter? I always suggest this, and we'll talk more about why employers are including or asking for cover letters in the application process. So a resume is going to provide for an employer objective facts. It's going to give some concise and professional information about your skills and ability. You're going to section it off and format it in a way that, again, is very objective. And it's written in a third-person language. You're not using I, me, mine within your resume. So it's pretty straightforward. You're sharing with employers how you are going to transfer your skills into the new position that you're applying to. But the cover letter provides more in the sense that now you're looking at what subjective information can you provide to employers. And you can also include some detailed and personal information in your cover letter. Not just telling them that you have soft skills, but now you have an opportunity to share how you use those soft skills. And it's written in a paragraph essay format. And here's where you can use the first person narrative to share more about why you're the best candidate for the job. So please don't repeat information from your resume in your cover letter. This is like a piece of real estate. So you want to think about what are you going to include on this property versus what's already on the other page. So don't repeat or say refer to resume. You want to be able to share with an employer a little bit more about who you are and why this job is important to you, how you've researched it, and how you can connect yourself to it. So, what makes a great cover letter? A cover letter that gives the reader insight into your thought processes is really important. Most employers today are asking behavioral questions in interviews. So you can begin this process of helping them understand a little bit more about how you think, what you've gained, what experiences you have, and how you would define them. It also offers you the opportunity to personalize your application. So you may share with them in your introduction why you're passionate about applying, how you connect to the organization. In addition, it enables you to clearly articulate why you're interested in the company and how you match their needs. Remember, I mentioned that this is a customized letter to the employer. So being able to incorporate how you match the needs that they have is going to present you as a stronger candidate. In addition, it allows you to direct attention to specific skills and go into more detail about your key attributes. So as again, when I mentioned about those soft skills, or maybe in your resume, you shared about how you had team leadership responsibilities. Here's where you might be able to really elaborate on that, especially the types of experiences that employers are specifically looking for. And so finally, it opens the door to future communication and follow-up. So before you get started, you want to read the position description carefully and make note of the major responsibilities and qualifications. One of the things that I always suggest to students is that they either print out or save the position description in a file so that maybe a month, 2 months, when they do get called in for an interview, they can review that particular position and prepare themselves for the interview. But there's another reason that I suggest that you either print or save a copy of the position description, is you want to first make sure that you have covered all the major responsibilities and qualifications in your resume, but then also think of some scenarios, think of some experiences that you can really speak to the responsibilities and qualifications that the employer is looking for. So how have you successfully demonstrated their requirements? What are your best examples? How can you document that in a paragraph to an employer? So now they're really seeing much more of who you are as an employee. And then please, please, please remember to research the organization. Make note of any interesting facts, news, or new initiatives that they have going. Another reason that you want to research the organization is because you want to preferably incorporate within your cover letter how you align with this organization and make it clear right off the bat. Any questions before we get started with the formatting section? Okay, so as we're going through, if you have copies of your most recent cover letter, you have a printout, or you might want to take some notes just to kind of remind yourself of what you want to include when you're writing your letter. So let's go ahead and break this down. The very first part, actually, let me see here. All right, so you want to, in the salutation, you want to identify a recipient. Now, this is an area that's easier today than it has been in the past to find out who you might address your letter to. You can go onto LinkedIn, You can look up the company, see maybe Glassdoor, to do some research. It may even be on their website who the contact is, or within the application or position description. If you can't find the individual, you want to maybe reach out to human resources to see if you can find that information. And if you cannot get the name of the recipient who you want to address the cover letter to, you can put in Dear Hiring Manager. However, you will position yourself one step ahead if you have a name of an individual who works within human resources. So the address block is optional. However, again, I think you're going to impress an employer if you can include that information, because it's going to show them that you've looked into, are aware of the location, and just set yourself apart more professionally. So this is an example of how you might begin this first section. And one of the other things about this presentation that I think is helpful is we're breaking it down into pieces. You don't have to write your cover letter from this portion first, or in the sequence. I would say start piecing away at it in the way that you can best start connecting yourself to the organization, and you can go back and reorganize from there. But we have, this will be your heading. You want to use the same header as your resume. Should an employer print this out, should these documents get separated, it's easy for them to match them up. And again, it looks professional. The things that you have in the header are things like your city and state. There's also a LinkedIn address here. If you have your LinkedIn profile up to date and ready to go, then include this here. However, if it's not where you want it to be, I would just include your email and your contact phone number. So you'll also want to include the date, an address block, and again, if you can, and before I can go back, it looks like someone has a question. Hector, what is your question?
Hey, Kathy, good to see you. So, though I have a question though. So I understand that we cannot put in the same material that we already had, like in a resume to our cover letter. But what if we already have our LinkedIn on the resume?
If the LinkedIn, yeah, I mean, that's fine because it's just your header, right? It's the way that you're representing yourself, kind of like kind of your stamp for how individuals get a hold of you or find out about you. And LinkedIn is another way. So absolutely, you want this to look exactly like this particular portion, exactly like your resume header. Okay, so what I'm talking about, not repeating, will be the content of what you're writing to the hiring manager. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, and one more, sorry about that. And would that also include the font as well? Same
Yes,
everything?
absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
And yeah, that's a great question. And the reason being you want to keep it, again, is if these papers get displaced, it's kind of part of your branding, right? We do workshops on branding, and this is just another representation of when an employer looks at your documents. Hey, I know this is Terry Toro's document because the header is all of the same. Okay. Anything else?
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the introduction. So this is where you want to use your creative writing skills a little bit. you don't want to write a boring introduction, especially if you're in a creative field, but more so because you want to hook the reader in right away. Employers read lots of cover letters and resumes. And if they're reading the same thing over and over, it becomes a little bit boring and repetitious. However, if you hook them in about something specific about their organization, you're going to capture their attention right off the bat. So you want to start with an anecdote, an experience, an observation about the organization, or some research and statistics. More importantly, you want to align yourself with the organization's mission, philosophy, values, or goals. So you want, again, this is where the research piece comes in. You want to let them know that this wasn't just a random thought for you to apply to this organization, that you have invested some time and feel that this is a good position for you, and that you're going to bring in something that's beneficial to the employer. So, and again, maybe you align with their goals. Maybe you're really passionate about their mission. This is where you want to let them know in that introduction paragraph. You also want to articulate specific reasons why you want to work for the organization. Why does the position appeal to you? Why did you make this attempt to fill out your application? It's similar to a thesis statement. So you want to identify what makes you the ideal candidate, and the more specific that you can be, the better positioned you are. And let's say you're applying to an organization that someone that you talked with on campus, somebody you met at a job fair, you are definitely going to want to include the individual who works at that organization in your introduction, because that already will get attention that would not be there otherwise. So utilize whatever anecdotes, experience, observations, statistics that you have that will make sense to an employer. So here's an example. I recently had the opportunity to speak with John Smith, Apple's experienced engineer in the Information Systems and Technology Division, about the human interface guidelines for the iPhone. So this is very specific right off the bat. There's a name included, already making the connection, and talking about something that Apple's working on. And then goes on to say, we discussed how the implementation of intuitive design, fluid function, and necessity of ease in most, if not all, of Apple's products has undoubtedly led to their success and popularity. In this sentence, they're giving some sense that they understand the organization. They understand the products that Apple puts out. Additionally, after discussing these guidelines and using my own iPhone religiously, I decided to explore internship opportunities with Apple. To my delight, I came across a posting for an online support user experience intern for the upcoming summer of 2020. I believe I would not be only an excellent fit for this position, but would also bring a unique perspective into the discourse of user experience design at Apple. Now, this is a pretty elaborate introduction. Yours may not be this elaborate, nor does it need to be. But what it does need to be is clear and concise and meet a need for the employer. Oftentimes, students or other individuals in a cover letter might put something like, this position will give me great experience to develop for the field I want to go into. But at this point, I'm suggesting you don't put those types of things in. I want you to look at and understand what this individual has included in this introduction. They're not telling an employer what they're expecting to get from the company. They're telling an employer, you're going to benefit from the work and the experience that I bring to Apple. So think like an employer. What does this employer need? And you want to share in your introduction that you've got what it takes. Will you get experience? Absolutely. But an employer is not looking to invest in that until they know that you're a great candidate to begin with. So look at this cover letter from the perspective of the employer. All right, so now let's think about the body paragraphs. And most of the time, you are going to be able to really get your point across in 3 paragraphs. However, if you need to break that up a little bit, please do not go more than 1 page in your cover letter. As much as individuals might want to have the luxury of time to read all that information, employers really don't. They may get over 100 applications for 1 position. So you want to be able to give them the information they need, and you want to pack some punch in this letter that you're sending to them. So you want to persuade the reader as to why you're the best fit for the company and the position. You want to show you possess the most important skills they seek, and you want to convince them that they'll benefit from hiring you. Okay, this goes back to what are the benefits you're providing the employer. Also, you can describe how you can help them to reach their goals. And then you can use your resume as a source of data to support it. However, what you want to do is elaborate specifically on where you shine, what value you bring to the employer, in a way that they can see the extent of your experience. So now you are showing them versus telling them in a more personal way than they can see from the resume. So you want to position yourself as an expert and an asset. So you can do that by identifying the organization's greatest challenges and needs. Where is this understanding going to come from? It's going to come from doing a little bit of research on what articles have been written about it. What does the website say? What are new collaboratives that they're working on? Then you can articulate how you would resolve or mitigate them. What is it that you've worked on in the past? What insight do you bring to their situation? And then be sure to give specific examples of demonstrated success. And if you should have any question about this, takes a little bit to kind of get this piece down. But please, as Elof said in the beginning, the Career Center is here to assist you. You have, if you're graduating, you still have a year post-degree to utilize our services, and we are open all summer long to provide you service as you need it. So incorporate your knowledge of current trends, industry standards in your field. And this is something that I think everyone should be doing if they haven't already, is start to get involved with maybe a group on LinkedIn that relates to the career you want to get into. Or now it's easy enough to find articles online from maybe publications that are writing on what's happening in your field or industry. So keep up to date, continue to invest in yourself and into the trends, doing that research as you're going forward. So describe the context, identify specific challenges, problems or goals that the organization might be facing, and then offer a solution, right? And this may be as simple as just what you see in that position description. So let's break this down a little bit more. In your body paragraphs, you want to offer some proof that you do know what this position entails and that you're bringing something to support it. So describe your qualifications for the position using specific examples. And remember, you do not have to use work experience. This could be from your academic. It could be from co-curricular, internships, volunteer. What is it that you've done in your past that's going to align with this position? Then you want to connect your accomplishments, skills, and knowledge directly to the position of the organization or field that you're applying towards. And then also stress accomplishments and achievements over your daily job duties. Explicitly state how you can contribute to the organization, right? So this is where it might take a little bit of time breaking this down, but it will be well worth it in the long run. A couple of things that happen here as you're developing your paragraphs. One is that, like developing your resume, you're understanding what value you bring to an employer, but this is also preparation for those general interview questions that most employers will ask you. So let's go through another example of what this would look like. So the success of the workshops, lectures, trips, and tours I currently coordinate as a director of programming for 65 undergraduates at a residence at the University of Maryland depends on my skills in project planning, task delegation, and team and time management. As elected director of finance for the student government for a student population of over 30,000 people. I gained substantial experience in managing teams of both student representatives and full-time employees in order to ensure the effective deployment of a $15,000 budget and to oversee the operations and financial performance of the various retail and food businesses owned by the student government. As a program manager with your organization, I would identify key performance drivers, propose innovative methods of engagement, and execute similarly successful programming results. All right, that was a mouthful, but does anybody have any ideas of what did they see standing out in this particular paragraph? Does anybody want to share their comments about what they're noticing? Hector?
So I noticed that they're very specific in the group of people that they serve, like 65 undergraduates. And I also noticed that for this person's position as a director of finance, to specify that they also assist a population of over 30,000 people. So I would assume that if any of us have had any similar positions, like my own position as a peer mentor, I would specify for a student population of 35 students, I think this and think that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Those are some great points. They're quantifying, they're using qualifiers here. They're giving a much broader extent of the people that they're serving, the scope of the position. So just, and thank you for sharing what you see here, because this is important, and you're absolutely right. It's very specific. So instead of listing all of the skills and abilities that the employer is seeking, you're still within this paragraph sharing that you have those specific skills and abilities, but you're doing it in a way that shows them a much broader scope of your work. So is there anything else? Does anybody else have anything that they notice from this particular paragraph? Oh, okay. So one of the other things that I want to point out is that they're also concluding the benefit that they are bringing to this position. In that last sentence, as a program manager with organization, I would identify key performance drivers, innovative methods of engagement, or propose innovative methods of engagement, and execute similarly successful programming results. So now here, they're sharing that they understand what needs to be done in this particular role. So think about one or two particular experiences that you had and really honing on them by the details, and let an employer from start to finish know that you understand the procedure, the steps that need to be taken to get things done. Any questions? Okay. So the third paragraph is the conclusion and closing signature. So here you want to restate your interest in the position and why. You want to summarize your qualifications. And then for new professionals, you want to state your willingness to learn and grow. You also want, even though in your header you've listed your phone and email, you want to restate your contact information just to make it easy for the employer. And use a professional signature, something like best regards, sincerely, or warm regards, and then include your signature and typed name. So, another example. Through the experiences articulated above, I have come to value the importance of research as it relates to social justice, policy, and politics. My community involvement and leadership roles have also solidified my passion to make a difference. In joining your organization, I believe I can contribute significantly through the research assistant position. Hard work and a willingness to learn and improve my expertise are qualities that I value. I welcome you to reach out to further discuss my qualifications. Please contact me. The phone number is included. The email is again included. And then finally, thank you for your consideration. So recognizing that again, they're reinforcing how what they're aligning their values with the organization. They're inviting the employer to reach out to discuss things further. And then also including some of the characteristics that are important to the position and ending the letter strong. So any questions on this piece? No? Okay, so let me share a few last tips and then we can open up to some questions. But you want to, the same as you do with your resume, use relevant industry key terms and vocabulary. This is important in just keeping an employer's interest and helping them to understand that you know the position and bring value to it. The other is, please ensure that you have proper grammar, punctuation, because today the reason employers are asking for cover letters is not just for an additional understanding of what you bring to the position, but as a writing sample. You can have someone at the Career Center review your cover letter. You can also just ask a friend or someone who, you know, has a good eye for picking up on these things, or one of the writing centers on campus. Reason being is that oftentimes when we work on things over and over and over, and this is a tedious process, sometimes there can be some very minor mistakes that we overlook. So always good to have a couple of more sets of eyes to review it. And if you can, if there's somebody that you know or can reach out to that is in that industry or works for a company similar, or even works for that particular company, I may catch some things that you want to include. And then, as I said, you want to have a few more eyes look at it so that you can be sure that you're providing your best professional presentation. So this is the end of our presentation for cover letters. Our information is here. I would encourage anybody who has more questions, or maybe is concerned about polishing up their resume if they've graduated, to reach out to the Career Center and make an appointment. Join our workshops. We have some great workshops going on this week. Please go on Handshake. Handshake is our portal to where you can find jobs and internships, find out what events, make your appointments, reach out to other employers and other students. So remember, we are here to serve you even throughout the summer. We're making remote appointments, and we want to be sure that when you get finished, that you're landing on your feet and you're understanding the process. So at this time, I want to open it up to any questions that anybody has, and they can be other questions if you'd like. Okay, well, it doesn't look like anybody has anything at this point. So I'd like to remind you, if you have not put your email address into the chat, please do so before you log off. I want to thank you for joining us today. We appreciate that you're, attending these events. And again, feel free to reach out for anything that you need at this time. Thank you.